Okay, we are recording. Hello, welcome everybody. We're back to Unzipped episode. I have no idea. At this point, they're all just kind of being scatter released now. And this is actually a special one because Hilary is here, who is just everything. And a lot of people that were trying to get scheduled onto the Unzipped calendar, we're booked out through like November now. But I was like, no, Hilary cannot wait that long to be on the show. So welcome. Thank you for being here.
Oh my gosh. Such a pleasure. Always anything you want. Just,
I'm so excited. So just to give everybody a little intro really quick, if this is your first episode, you've watched, I own Zippy Content. What Zippy Content is we represent authors, entrepreneurs, coaches, consultants, etc. And we find them interviews on podcasts. So my whole idea behind the show is that I'm interviewing the podcasters that we have in my network that we get to send our guests to, and we get to show them. I mean, we have about 700 podcasters now that we work with. So me and my team were like, how do we tell people how amazing all these people are that we have? So we're unzipping the network and showing everybody, what we have going on. So Hilary is extra special because she's also been a client of mine for 2 years now, and also like one of my dearest friends and confidants and partners, and God, at whatever other label you can give us. We are soul sisters. Yeah. So I'm excited to have you here, and this is just a no-brainer for me to have you on, obviously. So
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you. Oh my goodness. And it's like we just couldn't get it together for like
between the two of us, it's like tech issues. We've both been sick a lot too, so it's just been it's been one thing after another. So tell everybody about your podcast. What do you have going on?
So my podcast is Sick Biz Buzz, and it's geared towards chronically ill and disabled entrepreneurs, but we do have an overlap for just even your garden variety entrepreneurs. And we're really digging down deep into mindset and overcoming, whether it's a physical or mental health challenge. It's important to approach every day with the I can do it mindset, with positivity mindset, especially when you're waking up every day with pain or you're waking up with particular challenges. You have to do a little bit more mindset work because you can get down, you can get depressed and anxious. Not surprisingly, when you have a chronic illness, a lot of mental illness overlaps. Because you're looking at depression, you're looking at anxiety, what's wrong with me, how do I treat this, how do I live, that type of a thing. And so we're just really trying to give people tools as well. We bring on life and business coaches, as well as just entrepreneurs who are in the trenches themselves, and they're figuring out time hacks, they're figuring out organizational hacks, how to grow their business and even be profitable. Isn't that crazy? You can even be profitable and be like, what? And and you don't have to be like a waif in the wheelchair. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, my life is terrible. It's awful. Please pass me the rolls. I don't know. But you don't have to. You can actually enjoy your life, and you can enjoy it more if you want to, despite what challenges you face. So we started back in November of 2017. It's just been an organic podcast, but it has been mind blowing. We have had some of the most amazing people on that have shared what's worked with them. I mean, it's almost like mindset hacks in a way.
Well, and that's so important too, especially for your audience. But I mean, a lot of people get into entrepreneurship and they work from home because they're sick and because they can't go into work. You know what I mean? So you are like such a needed resource. When you just first told me that you were doing this and you were putting out your book and your podcast, I was just like, this is perfect. Like, it's just, I hadn't really seen anyone talking about it. You know what I mean? I mean, granted, I haven't been in this game that long, but you know what I mean? But before you started talking about it and turning it into a resource and, just bringing visibility to it, I don't feel like it was something that people talked about very often.
I don't think they did. And I think part of that was the stigma associated with it. I don't want to let people know that I'm sick because maybe they won't hire me, or develop some sort of, perception of me that's not true.
Yeah.
And really the opposite is true, because we have everything to prove. So, and we also have to do it in the smartest, quickest way. Like, we are no BS. There's no time for drama. There's no time for politics.
Right.
There's only time for, this is an effective method. This is a process. This is what works. This is what doesn't.
Yeah.
And so you're going to get somebody who also is trying to prove themselves at the same time, even though we have nothing to prove. But
Right.
you're still going to get that. You're still going to get people saying,
naturally.
right, I'm sick, but I can still do it. So you're going to get that person who tries harder, and that person who knows the best and most efficient way to get done.
Right.
That equals cost effectiveness. Also, we don't really go anywhere. Like, that sounds terrible. I don't want to generalize. Like, I'll just say I don't really go many places. Sometimes,
right.
But we're not hard to find. Like,
For sure. No, I totally agree. I mean, yeah, you specifically, you're such a hard worker. I mean, I see what you have going on. It's such an inspiration, especially with everything that you're dealing with. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I can't imagine someone who's going through like a chronic illness, or they're in pain every single day, just like being so motivated by you. You know what I mean? Like, it is possible. So I love it.
Yeah. It is possible. Some days, like, if I didn't have the work, I think I'd be worse off, because then you have, this bubble existence of pain and confusion, and your body doesn't know what's happening, and fear, and all of the other emotions that kind of bubble up within you.
Right.
So last night I was going to bed. So I'm being treated for long-term Lyme disease right now, which has caused all of this.
Oh my gosh.
Yep. And so I was feeling kind of rough when I got home from treatment yesterday. I had an hour massage, and you know how that gets all the toxins flowing.
Yeah, you can definitely feel kind of like shit after all that.
And then I had adjustments, and I had like this shake therapy where you stand on this platform and your whole, like, everything shakes. Like, everything that is not attached well will shake. Like, I'm like,
that is crazy. Well, so what does that do?
What it does is it wakes up your nervous system, and it also helps your cells, like, create new fresh cells at the cellular level. So it wakes everything up, and it also does things like it improves constipation. It actually reduces cellulite, which I was like,
interesting.
Is this working? Like, how quickly can I?
Have you tried cryotherapy?
I haven't, but I've heard of it. I know some of our peeps have tried that, huh?
Yeah. So my sister Jen, I remember talking to you this, like, last year. She was dealing with some really, out of the box health issues, and they thought she had Lyme. And she did cryo for a long time, which is you freeze your body for a few minutes, and she claims it was one of the things that helped her just the most with, like, pain, inflammation, everything that she was dealing with. And it's like the same benefits that you're describing with the shaking therapy. So that's what made me think of it.
Interesting. Yeah. You feel like your organs are going to fall out of you.
I bet. That's crazy.
And you're sitting there, and you're like, and there's other people in the room, and you're like, there are things happening in the nether regions as I'm on the shake machine that I should have. Like, this is not the machine, but you, Grandma,
I think I just need a couple more minutes.
Yeah, I know.
It hasn't helped me enough yet.
Why do you keep this machine? Leave me alone. Fine.
Oh my God, that is so funny.
You have to laugh at it. I've been doing some oxygen therapy too.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah, that is, I think we talked about that before, where oxygen, if you don't like need it, when you get it, you start kind of like gulping. You kind of like, what's happening.
Wild.
It's weird. It feels like your nose is frozen inside. It's just bizarre.
Wow.
Yeah, it's weird.
Interesting.
But all of these things, and then electrocuting my feet twice a day, using lasers and just different things. And then we did a food sensitivity test, and I'll be starting on a different diet as well.
Oh man. Well, I'm so glad that you finally have a diagnosis and you have like, they have like a firm plan of action, because you spent so long just not even knowing. So my next question is just to have you fill everybody in and like give us some backstory on what you have going on. So I think we're leading into it perfectly.
Oh, see?
So yeah, tell us a little bit about like your journey and what made you like, what brought you to this point.
So this was crazy. And now I know it actually started back in 2012. In 2012, I was taking a walk with my now mother-in-law and my husband, he's now my husband at the time, he was just my boyfriend at the time. So I was taking a walk and it was hot out. It was a summer day and we were walking in like this blacktop. And I started feeling like I kind of was stumbling and I was losing sensation in my feet. And I was like, well, this is really weird. One of the things about Lyme or MS or transverse myelitis, which is another disease I have, which is super fun, is that you can flare by temperature. So your thermostat is kind of broken in your body. So you can flare from either being too cold or too hot.
Oh, maybe you shouldn't try cryotherapy.
Yeah, exactly.
It might not be a good idea for you. Crazy.
But so we're walking and I'm stumbling, whatever. I saw the neurologist and they said, well, you have some vitamin overage or something like that, and that causes neuropathy, blah, blah. I don't think that was accurate because I find it very odd that 2 years later, I was able to come back. This time they found a lesion in my spine, same kind of symptoms, but I wasn't able to really lift myself up from a seated position. My feet started going haywire again. I had vertigo for 7 months. And,
oh my gosh.
I couldn't walk without assistance, whether it was somebody else or the wall or a cane or
vertigo for 7 months.
Yeah, and it's like
God.
It's not like being on a merry-go-round. It's like being on a ship where
oh hell,
like you're just always like that, because my feet were like, I don't know where the floor is, and my brain was like, hey, do you know your feet don't know where the floor is? And
oh my God. That sounds like a nightmare.
It was just even having my feet on the floor made it really, really bad. So my work at the time, I worked at a place called Home Furniture, and they were like 10 minutes from my house, and I was doing marketing and I was writing about interior design and furniture.
Oh wow.
It was so fun.
Yeah, that sounds great.
It was awesome. But so they brought in a little recliner for me to put my feet up so I could work. And it just wasn't enough because it's very enervating. One of my big problems is fatigue, and I have to be able to manage that. I just did a little podcast, not really a podcast, just like a little live in one of the groups about how it's important to work to your circadian rhythm when you're sick like this. Because
interesting.
Otherwise you're trying to fit yourself into somebody else's idea of, this is what the hustle looks like. This is what the grind looks like. And
right. And that's how people kill themselves, really.
Well, they do. If they stop, you're going to get discouraged and go, well, I can't do this because, I can't keep up with it. I don't have the stamina, whatever.
Right.
So I did lose my job, and I lost all my insurance. I lost my short-term disability.
Oh my God.
Long-term disability denied me because I went to the doctor 10 days too early.
What?
Yeah.
How does that even make sense? Too early? You went before you were approved? Is that what it was?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
So I had started like in 2013. I think I must have been around the year mark. The year mark later, I get sick, and they're like, "Yeah, if you had come in 10 days later, in May, then you would have been approved. But we can't approve any of this." And so,
jeez, you've got to be kidding! What a nightmare.
Yeah, and and just at the time when you're like, "Wow, I don't have anything at all anymore."
Yeah, and something really is happening, and you had no options. I
had no options. No, I had nothing.
No.
I had no job. I had no, my relationships were falling apart with my kids, with my fiance at the time. Like everything is just going to, because everything's, I don't know where I'm going to go. I don't know what income I'm going to have. I don't know, now I'm not approved for long-term disability. So then I tried, and that was a blessing, because if you can do something. And not just to provide an income for yourself, but because you can prove to yourself that you are productive. You still got it, you know?
Yeah. You're not lost. You're not lost just because you have stuff going on. You just need to take a look at what you have, what you can offer people still.
Yeah. And I don't look at the why. Like, I've never been like a why person. Why did this happen? Blah, blah, blah. I don't look at that. I look at, what am I supposed to get out of this?
Right.
So I refuse to believe that we're just given situations and there are no gifts inside them. Like, there are gifts inside everything you do. Even the worst possible thing you can imagine is somehow moving you forward if you allow it to.
Yeah, and that's such a transformational mindset shift right there. I mean, that'll just change everything. For sure.
Oh, it does. It changes your reality, because you say, I'm going to change my reality. It's kind of like the abundance mindset, where you go, all right, I'm going to be abundant now. And the universe goes, oh, okay, well, great. Welcome. We've been waiting for you. You're going to be abundant now. Yeah. Here you go. That's all it is. It's like you turn it on. So
like, this has been here all along. You just were not like allowing it into your filter.
Yes. We don't allow it into our filter. That's exactly right. So after that, I started working. When I started J Hill Marketing, it was January 2015. So like January 1st, 2015. And I incorporated later, which I'm going to tell people, if you are going to be in business for a while, and you know you are going to, because that's the whole purpose, right? Incorporate right now. Do not
take notes.
Yeah, seriously, if you start up as a sole proprietorship, you're going to be eating your ass in taxes. Like, you're just,
for sure.
So don't do that.
Sure.
I was like, oh, this is fine. We'll just get up and running. But I was on unemployment then too for 9 months during that time. And somebody told me, and I can't remember who it was, in my copywriting group, like, what you want to do is coordinate with various people too in various groups, so that you're networking and meeting people. And that's what I did. And that was kind of like my lifeline, because I didn't have coworkers anymore.
Right. For sure.
So, yeah. So I wrote like 250 emails to people, everybody that I knew. And I was like, hey, and they were like, who are you again? No.
Yeah. Oh, I remember.
Because you have the same crazy drive that I do.
Yeah, I think that's why we're like this.
Because I remember the first time I was on the phone with you, and I was like, man, I've never met anybody who could understand that drive, that point of view, where it's like, well, we're just going to figure it out. You know?
Yeah, I mean, it takes being put in the situation where you have no other option. I mean, really, it's like, what else are you going to do? You're just going to sit at home and do nothing ever again? No, that's not an option.
No, it's not. And that's why being turned down for long-term disability was a really good thing, because I did not have the chance to get dependent on it. And then I did try for permanent disability after that. So this is before, I'm sorry, my hair is driving me crazy.
You're good.
You're going to watch this and be like, God, she's so, what a crazy lady.
We're both just like, whoo. I know, I've been messing with my hair the whole time too. It's driving me nuts.
It's a girl thing. But so I did try out for unemployment, or I mean, not unemployment, long-term, Social Security. And I didn't want it. And they were like, so what do you like to do in your spare time? And I was like, I like to work and think about working, because I just wanted to own something and have something. And so obviously I was denied, because I didn't even try, because I did not want to be boxing. When you are on long-term disability, or Social Security rather, you can only make $1,000 extra a month over what they pay you. So there's a cap on the income. Yeah. And I was like, Don't give me a cap.
No. We don't do caps on incomes. No.
So it worked out. Like everything
so
was
amazing.
work out, and it did, you know, and so I landed my first client. That was the hotel chain. And that was just amazing. Like I went through.
How cool.
Yeah, very cool. It was American, and I worked for them for 3 years. And then in the midst of that, of course, was Ryan. And we recently parted company in a good way because he's grown so much and I've grown so much. So he's got a whole new in-house marketing company, but worked with him for 3 years and learned a tremendous amount. And in that, in just entire network of people identifying the niche of what they need, and they need affordable book editing. I don't want to say publishing because that's really, the onus is on the author. They're the self-publishers, even though I help them with everything that you need to know. And you know this because you're going through it right now. And here's the announcement. Woo!
Yeah, I know. I was going to say something about it. Just let people know.
I should not have outed you like that.
No. I'm glad you did.
Party, like, did you know Caitlin's gay?
No, I'm so excited. And I couldn't be as, we just had, okay, so everyone who's watching, we just had our call right before this interview, and we went over the outline for my book and everything. Hilary's helping me with it, and it's incredible. So I'm so excited. But continue. I like to hear more about this.
So yeah, so that just, I mean, it's interesting because I did not set out to be a book editor. I had edited a number of books, like maybe like 5 books by that time, including my own. I wrote a book called Killing Carl, 2Ks. It's on Amazon.
I love that.
It's on barnesandnoble.com. It'll scare you. It's fiction, and it is told from the point of view of a serial killer's wife. It took me 8 years to write it.
Wow.
I went to try to pitch it. Like, I was all in with this sucker. I had a literary.
That's so cool.
We were ready to go, and then she's like, "I don't represent the thriller genre anymore," and I was like, "You murdered my heart." Okay.
Oh my God.
Murdered my heart because I worked with him for like a year and a half.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And yeah, you spent so much time on it.
Yep. And then she's just like, nope.
Man, that's so frustrating.
Okay, that's fine. That's not supposed to be my path then, I guess. So, but anyway, so I had edited books before, and I greatly enjoyed it. I just was like, this is, because I've always been like a word nerd. I have the hat, you know that. So I've always been a word nerd, and I've always loved language and stuff like that. And so just being in a book is a much longer project. It's perfect for people who have chronic illnesses. I'm not.
Yeah.
Unless you're up to the deadline, and you learn how to do things like pad your deadlines so that you can have, you know, a flare or, you know, or whatever.
Smart.
Yeah. So, and it just grew from there. Now I have a small team of people, which is really cool. And I'm developed an editing course for people so they can learn how to do what I do and work on their own. They're certified then to work with me, because I had people coming to me like, hey, I've always wanted to be an editor and whatever. I'm like, we got to have a vetting process here.
Yeah. You can't just bring anyone in on something like that. That's definitely important.
No, and it's not like, you know, I've been a blogger for 12 years, whatever, I can edit a book.
No, yeah.
You know,
that's not what we want.
No. And you know, like, my name's on this. You know what I'm saying? I'm not attaching myself to.
Yes.
Not gonna be
I totally get it. Get it. So that kind of leads into the next question. Then I was going to tell us about the moment that you decided, I'm going to start this podcast. It's a great idea. Like, what kind of made you, what was the aha moment?
You know, I worked with Robert Wiseman, so you know him, and we
love him.
And he still does my podcast. He still does all the producing for it. I think you went somewhere because I see your.
Yep, someone called in.
Oh, is that what happened?
Yeah.
All this technology, we can't figure it out. But he and his team volunteered and did the Sick Biz site, and they redid the J Hill site. Like, Robert has been a phenomenal support in terms of just giving of himself. Like, he didn't even bill me for it.
Wow.
So, you know, and I kept being like, hey, are you going to send me something I can do? And he'd be like, yeah, I'll get around to it, man. And then one day he was like, you're like the little old lady that I help across the street. And I was like, same, brother, same. You know? So
I love it.
But
That is awesome.
yeah, he talked about the podcast, and I had just thought about it anyways because I've always wanted to do something like that. And a million years ago, I went to broadcasting school, and he'll listen to this and he'll laugh his ass off because he's like, hi, I'm a professional podcaster. I took a semester and a half. And I was like, listen, I took more than a semester and a half. I really, truly did. So I never really did anything with that. I worked at a couple news stations and stuff like that. And I got out of it because it was very depressing. And I couldn't
see that.
Yeah. It was like, oh, okay. Oh, this is great. We got another story to go to. Okay, but there's 12 dead children.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. See, I there's no way. I could not.
And one day I just sat down and I cried for everybody I'd never met, like young people dying in tunnels, car crash. Like, I just sat down and I was like, oh my God.
You're just zeroing in on all the worst things that are happening. All the things that are so bad that everyone needs to know about them. That's all. That's why I don't watch the news anymore, honestly. I can't. It's like it's just too much. You find out what's going on when you just get on the Facebook nowadays anyways. So it's like
and I think a lot of the news is so much like propaganda in terms of what they're selling you, depending on what side you're on or whatever. You know, you'll see
most definitely
whatever. So I'm like, I don't even know who's telling the truth anymore.
Oh yeah,
you're all a pack of liars.
Definitely. I think, you know what's really great is I feel like everyone's kind of realizing that, like, for the most part, like, people are really starting to realize that that's going on, and it's like disgusting. We're just kind of it's okay, yeah, so no more news station.
No more news station. But that is kind of what got me the idea. And then my husband named the show. So I should put that out there. Jastram named Sick Biz Buzz.
I love it. What's a great name?
Yeah, it kind of rolls off the tongue. It kind of sounds like the buzz, you know. I love it because it feels to me like Morning Zoo a little bit with the guests. Like, you don't know what the banter's gonna be like and stuff like that. But
yeah, definitely.
You know, you also meet some incredible people that just, I've had people reach out to me like, I like your podcast, I want to be on your show. One gal has Chiari malformation syndrome. I probably got that wrong.
What? One of my oldest friends, she has it too, and she had like really gnarly neck surgery and like she's sciatic surgery, and it's gnarly.
It is.
Chiari is gnarly.
She so she didn't know she had it until she was 17 years old, and she played softball for a super long time, like since she was 4 years old. And so she didn't know she had it, and she passed out on the field. But then it's more than that. Like a ton of sensory stuff came in. Like, she couldn't remember. She spent about a week in a fog. But anyway, so she's listening to the show, and she reached out. She's like, I want to be on the show because, and she's so young. And she started this company called Limitless Medical Log. So when you go to the doctor and they're like, fill in on the body where it hurts, and you're like, everywhere, you know, like,
yeah.
I'm always like, do you have a broad tipped marker instead of this little, you know, but she also then put in a calendar so you can track your appointments, you can track how you're feeling, you can track what you're eating. So when you go to your doctor and he says, you know, how did you feel last Wednesday? You can go, oh, okay, well, I actually felt like this, instead of trying to remember, especially when you go to the doctor. Right. Very emotional. If you've got news going on, you definitely, you can't, that's why you need to bring somebody. A lot of the time, they're in charge of doing the listening, and then you're in charge of just like disseminating information. Yeah. You know? Right. So
that's really smart. That sounds like something that people really, really needed was her company. That's awesome.
It's amazing. And that's the whole thing, is that you meet people that, are doing things with what you would perceive to be limitations, but they turn out to be these gifts that they're giving to the world.
Mm-hmm.
And that is how your day is. And that's who you're surrounded with, you know? And
right.
So I feel very lucky. Also, Courtney, like I could have died if I had the acute form of transverse myelitis. It paralyzes or kills within hours. If
Oh my God.
paralyzes like your trachea and stuff like that. So I'm very thankful. I'm very thankful.
Yeah, me too. Shit, that's crazy. My God.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
Lots to digest.
So that kind of leads, you're just leading right into the questions that I have prepared. So this is great. So my next question is, tell me more about some of the relationships that have come from your show, and you know, some of the people that you've met along the way.
Oh man, oh man, oh man. Well, there's Jordan Ray. I told you about Limitless Medical Logs.
Mm-hmm.
I have
Amazing.
met James Whitaker. James Whitaker is the producer, one of the producers of the movie Think and Grow Rich, The Legacy, that just came out. So I had him on there. We share a publisher. He's amazing. He's also on the Sick Biz board. So, and he's got a little bit of accent. It's lovely. So
I love it.
I know. I'm like, I'm not going to talk. You go. You just
right.
I'm like, I know, I love it. You know, it's just
yeah.
So him, I've met Armando Cruz, and helped him with his book too. Armando's background is in physical therapy, and so from a holistic understanding of the body, like physiological, so he can work with people who are chronically ill or disabled in terms of the physical aspect, but he's also a phenomenal mindset coach as well. Cody Jefferson is another one who is a person I clicked with immediately. He's a former minister and now is a mindset coach. And his wife should be like on every magazine there ever is. I met Adam Lyons and helped him with his book.
He's great.
As well.
I've had a call with him. Yeah, he's great.
He's amazing. His book talks about things like using procrastination to your advantage. Like you can take these things that you would think were a negative thing and kind of flipping them. He's very much into the psychological piece of it. Like, why do we do this? This is why we do it. And so because we know, you know, this is the instinct or whatever, then we can also go back and say, well, I know this is the instinct, so I'm going to work on it.
Mm-hmm.
So he's been amazing. I mean, there's just been incredible people. Some people just running their businesses. One gal has cerebral palsy. She's had it all of her life. And then she got divorced and had to figure out how to be a single mom.
Oh my gosh.
And she's writing for major media companies right now. So
many inspirational people.
Yeah, it's hope, man. It's hope. That's the idea, is to just provide people with a place to go, because it's not over.
No,
you know, if somebody's not saying, I'm going to put a toe tag on you right now, it's not over. You have a chance. Yeah. And if you think about it too, when else do you have the plug pulled on you? Your entire life. The plug is pulled. Your job, relationships, insurance, finances, whatever. It's all, and you have no choice but to reboot. You're rebooting your entire life in every aspect. So you get to make it what it wasn't before.
Yes.
You know, if you're a person who works like 9 to 5 and kind of like trying to catch up and raise kids, and, you know, one of those situations where one missed paycheck can bury you, you're not going to get this chance. I feel incredibly fortunate that I've been able to get this chance. So I just want to pay that. Sure, I feel like shit, like 88% of the time. You know?
Yeah.
But I want to pay that forward.
Yeah, definitely. So amazing. So tell us a little bit about just like the results that you've seen from your podcast. I know the services that you offer and the podcast itself are a little bit different, but I would imagine that there would be some growth happening. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about that.
You know, a lot of the people that I've done the podcast with, I've either done their books or I've gone on to do their books. So there's always business overlap. So it's just a matter of, like, I feel like I'm a plugger inner, you know what I mean? Somebody, I'm like, oh, that's great. You need to know so-and-so. Because not every opportunity is our opportunity. Like, it doesn't belong to us exactly to execute it and, you know, like, even profit from it. It might just be that we're the locator and we move forward. So there's been overlap definitely in that way. And I think the nonprofit and the message of the podcast are pretty cohesive. Although there are other entrepreneurs who listen who are like, yeah, mindset wise, like, this kicks ass, you know, and I'm definitely not going to turn them away and be like, well, you're not disabled or chronically ill, so you can't. Where's your
definitely.
You know.
Yeah, well, that's great. If you can pull in people that don't have these issues and they still just love your content, you know what I mean? That's amazing. That's awesome.
Very cool. It's a passion. And I think when it's a passion, it's just so much easier. Like, there's nobody just, you know, like, I go in the hole every month in terms of profit for this nonprofit. Like, I don't care because I want to bring something to people. Like, we just signed with a company that's going to help us develop affordable coaching modules for people. And I mean affordable, not like, you know, oh, I need to save up $3,000, $5,000, whatever. Like, what do you have now? We can get started. Let's make a difference. Let's start making money so that and don't be ashamed, you know, that the focus is your livelihood. I think a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to talk about money because that's evil or whatever. It's a tool, and it's like anything else, and you have to respect it and you have to welcome it.
Yes.
Right? And if you guess what? That's the message, you know. That
and it's not going to come to you. You definitely, you've got to have a positive mindset about money. And it's hard to have that when you're going through such a struggle, you know what I mean, with your health. And I can't even imagine how you were feeling when you lost your job and you had no insurance and all of that. Like, how do you have a good mindset about money when you're dealing with stuff like that? Like, I can imagine a lot of people that are listening to you are dealing with that, you know what I mean? So that's a cool resource.
Yeah, it's you know, it's like rubber to the road. There was no time for anything else. There was no time for doubt. There was no time for, I'm going to try and see if this works. Like, there was only time. I had kids, you know, one of my kids was living with his dad. I had two at home. I'm trying to think how old they were, probably like, I don't know, 15 and 13 at the time. And we had just lost our house. And so then a year later to get sick, it was like, there's no time for me to traumatize these kids any further. So I'm going to figure this out. I also started working super early, and I got a job behind my mom's back. When I worked at this pizza parlor, and my mom's like, you didn't get that job at that pizza parlor, did you? I was like, no. And then
Oh, funny.
And I did it for 3 days, and I didn't even have a social security card. They're like, we'll pay you. I was like, cool, I believe you.
That's awesome. Oh my gosh.
So, but I think coming from tumultuous backgrounds helps. Coming from backgrounds of adversity where you have been a survivor and you've been somebody who's made a choice to keep going because you feel like you're worth it, because you love yourself enough. Like, I used to be a very rageful person. I was very angry so much. Like, if somebody would try and get close to me, to be like, rah! You know, like, don't get close to me, I'll rip your head off. And I didn't like that about myself, so I changed it. And the same is true. Like, you need to do, if you don't feel like you can do this one major thing, here's a little hack you can do. Do something that you know you can do to build up that confidence in your mind, right? Yeah. So if you're stuck in your business, for example, and you're like, well, I really want to focus on this program, but I'm not quite sure it's taking shape, whatever, but you know how to do this really well, and this is the opportunity that finds you when people come to you, focus on that. Do that really well for a while. Feel really good about it, because then you'll have the confidence to be like, oh, now I can focus on this because I know I can do that. So there's little tricks, you know,
definitely
that you engage in.
Definitely. So tell everybody a little bit about what they can do if they're wanting to get into the podcasting industry. What can they do to prepare and just make sure that they're able to, I don't know, get a return on their investment, so to speak? You know what I mean? Whether it's, you know, in their business or otherwise. What would you do to kind of make sure that everything's dialed in?
Well, first of all, I tried to do the podcast myself, and it sounded like two people on tin cans were like, oh, this got cut off and we lost that, and I don't know how to edit this, so this is going to be in. So I would say if you're not comfortable being techie, that you can find a producer who is reasonable. You don't want to like put a pile of garbage on a silver platter and have a presentation. Anytime you have the opportunity to fully professionally execute and you have those resources, you need to use those resources. I'm continually outsourcing things in my business because I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to just marginally do that. Okay. I'm going to let it do that.
So important. I learned that the hard way too.
Right? Oh my God. Do you remember when we tried to do the live that one time on Facebook?
Oh my God. Oh my God. People were like, what are they doing?
You're like, they're back again. Why? We're like, well, there's no other way to test this but to go live.
Right.
No,
seriously, there's no other way.
There's no other way. So
yes.
Do that, and do that for your book too. Do that for any media that you're using in your business. Make sure that you are getting professional guidance on that. And that includes things like syndication. Make sure you have somebody who knows how to syndicate you. One of the things that can pop up is if you're doing your podcast yourself and you're submitting it to Apple, by the way, which you need to make sure you get into Apple. Or are you even a podcaster? You know?
Yes, exactly. You're preaching to the trust me. Yes, get into Apple.
Hard to, and they have, you know, different criteria that you need to. So if you use somebody who knows how to do that, you're not having to guess it. You're not having to look it up. You don't have to do it.
You don't have to reinvent the wheel.
And your time is better spent, and you know this, in your zone of genius where you can be more profitable and you can make a bigger impact than if you're trying to like muddle through doing something. So that's another thing. I was given a tip once too in podcast, if you're guest, you know, if you have guests on your podcast, to refer to them as co-hosts so that they feel comfortable bantering, right?
I like that.
And you don't want to be talking over each other, but you also don't want to be like, question number 1, what do you think of? And then an pause, and the, you know, there has to be flow, right?
Yeah, definitely. I would imagine the co-hosting kind of helps them feel more comfortable just sharing their own expertise and, you know what I mean, just more of their story.
Yeah, you're sharing it. I mean, yes, it's yours, but I mean, I do the same thing with Sick Biz. Like, it's not my nonprofit. It's a nonprofit for people to advocate for themselves and other people. That's why you can jump in and do whatever you want. If you're like, I want to do this for the nonprofit because I want to help it. I'm like, great, go for it. We all have resources, so we all have to help each other. In terms of podcasting, also, I think it's important that you are prepared, meaning it's important to remind your guests. I learned this too. I'd be like, all right, I'll talk to you in a month. And, you know, and it goes on their calendar and then you're just sitting. Also make sure you have a good, I don't know if you'd call it a venue or a platform. Do not use Skype. Sorry.
That's kind of what I was going to ask next is what do you recommend for like apps or like technology or anything like that is like kind of what to stay away from. So that's perfect.
Skype. I tried to use Skype for a really long time, and it would always be like, "Are you there? I'm in a tunnel. Click this button. You go to your
Oh
set."
my God.
You don't, because you're asking your guests to take time out of their day, or your co-host to take time out of their day to share their mission, to share their message. And you want there to be, it's kind of like when you're prospecting, you want there to be as few obstacles as possible, so people feel good about participating. So we're using Zencaster now, and I love it.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah, it
Love
records. It's a really good platform. We have not had any problems with. I think we had one where it was like there was a gap or something like that, but Robert fixed it. So that's why I have a Robert. Like, I don't.
Yes, right. So important.
Yeah, exactly. So there's that, and then there's I do not prepare my guests beforehand with the questions. I just let them know I've done research on them, and there's going to be questions. But if there's anything that's off limits, then I ask them to ask me that, because I'm not in the business of being salacious and people. But we also send out an email that says, we need your bio and we need your headshot too. But as soon as that podcast comes out, like even before we blog about it, we share it right from the Libsyn syndication. So get that out. And then what I'm doing is sharing a podcast every single day, whether it's a new one or whether it's an old one. It's yeah, and put a little money behind it. Don't be afraid to do some marketing.
Yeah, that's I was wondering, like, what do you recommend just in terms of like marketing and like repurposing the content and all of that stuff? Like, how do you kind of get the most bang for your buck, so to speak?
Well, absolutely. And any type of media should be looked at this way, that it's a multi-purpose vehicle. It really is. No matter whether it's a podcast, it's an article, it's a blog, it's a it's a squeeze page, whatever it is, like you don't have to recreate the wheel all the time.
Right.
This piece from this piece and whatever. So for our podcast, yes, they come out on Libsyn, and it's not glamorous at all. It's just like, the little logo comes out, whatever, and we share it all over the place, every single place that you can at the same time. So you're just
all the platforms.
Yep, exactly. And which means you do things like get a little bit.ly link for Instagram, so that people can, and customize that bit.ly link. So it'd be SBB, Zippy, for example. Yeah. Because then people can type that in versus like JB136. Like, remembers that. You need to take a little bit of time and do that. So I do that, and then we always repurpose it into a blog and pull out those key points for people. That's super important to do, because you're hitting people who absorb information in different ways.
Right.
Like, I'm a terrible audiobook person. I feel like the narrator is like, and then Jim went to the store. I'm like, wait a minute, where'd Jim go?
Right. Yeah, I totally get that. I really get that.
Yeah. We have to read it, right? Or just like step into it. So you have to cater to those people that absorb information differently, and make sure that you're putting those details out there. Some people are going to be skipping around your podcast too. They're going to go, oh, that's boring. I want to go to this section, whatever. So before they're listening to it like double time or time and a half, right? So take those precautions. I would say too, I learned this from Robert, don't give your listener too much to do. So don't be like, go buy the book and leave me a review. And oh, by the way, we have a new blog going on, and come on down to this.
Yeah. That's a smart, that's definitely a smart tip.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think a lot of people focus so much on what plugs they should be, and it's like, no.
And then they do not. They do not, it's like, well, what
overwhelming.
do you do? Yeah. So you state at the beginning, like, oh, I've got a new book coming out, so head here to grab it, and then reiterate that same promo at the end. So you're just telling them those things. In terms of sponsorship, look at sponsorship a little differently. When I first got into it, I was like, and by no means am I an expert in this. Like, I'm still learning as we go. But I first got into it and I was like, all right, great, we're gonna get this big sponsor,
Yeah.
You might not even get money initially. What you might get is something in barter or something in trade.
Right.
But that allows your audience to grow. The
Mm-hmm.
Project was a sponsor for a while, and that was in exchange for their publicity and their platform. We didn't,
See, that's awesome. That's just an example of a good relationship that came from it. That's great.
relationships. So
Yeah. So last question, just tell everybody where they can hear about you and how they can connect with you and how they can work with you.
Well, you can go to SickBizBuzz if you want to listen to the podcast, or go to sickbiz.com. That's probably the best way to get in touch with me, because you can send an email and reach me in a multitude of different ways. You'll find us on Facebook.
Yeah, it's kind of like everything in one spot.
So
Awesome.
sickbiz.com.
And you've got your Facebook group too, which is awesome. I love being a part of it. It's a great resource.
Thank you. Sure. I love that you're in there helping people. Thank you.
Well, I just love you, and I'm so glad that we're connected. We're going to grow old together.
We're going to be at that nursing home like we talked about.
Right. Seriously. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm so glad that we finally got to record for one of our shows.
Come on, mine. I know, because I don't think I prepared well for that one. I was like, oh,
I didn't either. Yeah, I really didn't either. I thought, because I wasn't even at my house, I was out of town, and I was like, oh, this is going to be fine. Yeah, and then it's, how it goes. We'll do this. We're going to get this. We're going to make this happen.
We will. We are beating technology issues one day at a time.
Oh, yes. And we're triumphant like 95% of the time.
We are. Yes, absolutely.
All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and end this thing. Thank you so much again. And I will write you after this, and we'll kind of figure out everything for our next call and everything. So again, thank you everybody for watching. Thank you, Hilary, for being here, and bye.
Thank you so much.
Of course. Okay, let's end this. There we go.